go.
Hi, it's Dr. Greg Mendel, your friendly anatomy professor. We are live with the entire class going over a dissection of the heart. Could we close that door just for a second? So what we're looking at here is we're looking at the heart. We're looking at the how to tell the orientation of the heart, look at the valves, things that might be on the lab practical. What we're looking at, let's just say this is the sheep heart, and we do not know which is the front and the back when we look at these things. Some things to look for is when you look at the base, it would be flat. The apex is coming down at the bottom, and you want to see it going to the left. If you see it going to the right, you're looking at the back of the heart. Something else you can look at, these auricles that look like pig ear type flaps, they should be pointing forward when you're looking at the front of the heart. If you're looking at different parts and pieces, like what's behind this, you can see there's a line right here. That line is the interventricular sulcus. That interventricular sulcus is dividing the ventricles here and here. This is going to be the left ventricle. This is the right ventricle. Up here is going to be the right atrium. And we know that that auricle is part of the right atrium. So that's some exterior things you could see. In that interventricular sulcus, you'd expect to find the anterior interventricular artery and the great cardiac vein. We would see a posterior interventricular sulcus, which would have the posterior interventricular artery. We'd have, choking on nothing here. We'd have the right ventricle here, the left ventricle here, the left atrium here, and the right atrium here. That's outside structures. What we did in our dissections, we made a coronal incision. We open it up, and we can see by looking at this, we want to be able to judge the right from the left. We can see that over here by my thumb, this wall is thinner, this wall is thicker. That means that this is the left ventricle, this is the right ventricle, divided by the interventricular septum. When we look at this, we can see valves. I'll try to open this up just a hair more. We can see the valves. We have a valve here on the left. That's going to be the mitral valve, also called the bicuspid valve. The valve that's a little bit left here is the tricuspid on the right, the bicuspid or mitral on the left. You can see the chordae tendineae hanging off of these, the little tendons that hold that valve shut, the papillary muscle here. We're going to flip it over and see if we could find any good chambers to be able to figure out what you're looking at as far as the vessels on top. We have not looked at any of these except this one in advance, so what we're going to do is just put a stick down in here. And so in the lab practice, we say, what vessel did we just pierce? The easiest way to do it, if you know you're looking at this thing from the front, for example, auricles going forward, we're just going to open it up and we're going to see where it went through. What we see is that on this one, it pierced through the left ventricle. It did not go through the valve, which tells me if it skipped the AV valve, it's directly leaving the left ventricle and leaving. So this one was going to be the aorta. If we take another stick and just poke it in somewhere, that's not going through because we're on camera. All right. Is that a hole or did we cut that there? I think that's a hole. Maybe not. Time to switch. Let's look at the sticks we put in different holes. When we open this one up, let's orient ourselves. We see this side's thicker. We know that's left. We know this side's right. Again, we have a stick going into the left ventricle, and that means that whatever hole is coming out, this has to be the aorta. We have another stick sticking in here. We see it wiggling over here. When we open it up and take a look, we see it's going directly into the right ventricle. The only big tube leaving the right ventricle is the pulmonary trunk. We have another stick. I believe is this the other one I didn't see? Nope, that's it. Here, we have another stick going through another hole. We open it up. We see it's right here by the valve on the left. So it's the left atrium. The only major tube going through the left atrium is going to be the pulmonary vein. And so that is basically some of the major things you need to know for tests is name the chambers. So we have left ventricle, right ventricle, up in here, right atrium, left atrium. The interventricular sulcus, know the left because it's thick, right because it's thin. Name the valves. Since it's on the left, this is a mitral valve. Since it's on the right, it's the tricuspid valve. The aortic semilunar valve, you can kind of see up in there. Let's just see. There's a valve right there. It's just a little hard to see. I think that auricles are something we would also ask. And remember, auricles are like an extra flap of skin on the atrium. If you were to have a heart laying out and somebody just pierced it and said, what layer is pierced? Because there's not an envelope on the outside, we just pierced the epicardium. You could also call it the visceral pericardium. If there were a needle poking right through there, that's the myocardium. And if it were poked somewhere on the inside, that's the endocardium. So it's the three layers of the heart wall: endocardium, myocardium, epicardium on the outside. If we had another layer that looked like it enveloped it, that would be the parietal pericardium. I believe that is it for this heart dissection.